Welcome back. We're the Brothers Mahoney. This is Michael.
And I'm James.
And today we are discussing Boom, which is the third episode of season 14 or season 1 of Doctor Who. And also, it is written not by Russell T Davies, who has written much of what we've got in these last, 6 episodes now?
I think he's kind of written all of it. Even the Starbase was adopted by him from the original thing, but I guess I don't have the episodes in front of me. I'd be surprised if he was the writer for all of it, though.
But indeed, this episode was written by Steven Moffat, who naturally was the second showrunner of this new run of Doctor Who. And he had a sort of I think every showrunner has a controversial time. So there's some people who weren't particularly big fans of when Moffat brought the show, but that's really not a discussion for now. Point being, he is back, and he is back with a boom. It's some good stuff there.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. This was released naturally on Disney Plus on May the 18th, or for us lucky fellas in the USA, the 17th. And the plot is quite a bit tonally different from the previous episodes of this season. And I'm taking this straight from IMDb. Caught in the middle of a devastating war on Casterian Sea, the Doctor is trapped when he taps on a landmine. Can he save himself and Ruby, plus the entire planet, without moving?
The plot doesn't go into it, at least that description, but the entire reason that the planet comes up is the landmine is actually kind of what connected into his DNA, and because he's a Time Lord, which makes him super important. It actually sounded pretty impressive how he described it.
Yeah, I think it's because the landmine itself isn't really the explosive. It sort of makes the individual standing on it the explosive. It sort of does something with the DNA. And because the Doctor's a Time Lord, he's like a complex time event. He would be a bit more bang for his buck. I think it is sad at some point they would destroy half the planet if the landmine actually did go off, and naturally the Doctor with it. So yeah, they probably would have been a bit screwed.
Yeah, it would have been a moment, as the Doctor said.
It would have indeed. And naturally, in this episode, we have Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor, Millie Gibson as Ruby. Then we have a Veranda Sathu, who, interestingly enough, is going to be, from my understanding, she's going to be a companion in the next season, season 15 of Doctor Who. I don't think we know if it's the same character. I'm assuming it's not. I don't think we know. And that's sort of interesting, but here she plays one of the Anglican Marines, and if that sounds familiar, well, it should, but we will get to it.
I mean, it's Steven Moffat. That was almost all he did in some ways during his tenure as showrunner.
Next, we have Bath Joshi, who plays another Anglican Marine. And lastly, a younger actress, Kaolin Springal, who played a young girl named Splice, which, as the Doctor says, is a pretty cool name. And like I said, this is written by Steven Moffat, which is his first episode he's written since Twice Upon a Time, which is back in 2017. Or if you prefer happier times, you can think about World Enough and Time in the Doctor Files, since Twice Upon a Time wasn't really the best goodbye he could have given.
Not only wasn't that the best goodbye, it also kind of threw the first Doctor under a bus. And as a fan of the first Doctor, it annoyed me more than anything.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that in a couple of years. So this episode, like the plot succinctly put, has the Doctor accidentally stepping on a landmine. And the way this landmine works is if he shifts his movement if too much, well, like I said, he becomes an explosive, he blows up.
Honestly, he becomes an explosive anyway, because the way the landmine is designed is that the entire reason it'll blow up if he shifts is because it's trying to ascertain if there is a living life form on top of it. But after a certain amount of time, it just blows up anyway, as a failsafe.
Yeah, so he's just screwed either way. And if you're wondering, hey, that seems like a delightful device, who made that? Segues beautifully. Because in this, the weapons on this war-torn planet were manufactured by the Villengard Corporation. And this is pretty amusing. I think James caught this almost immediately, right?
Yeah, well, we had not that recently, but it was a great conversation way back when, first season of the revival, the first episode written by Steven Moffat, the Empty Child. Actually, this would have been in part 2 of the Doctor Dances, where the Doctor and Captain Jack are talking about the weapons factory of Villengard And of course, it's the great conversation where the doctor mentions that he's been there once. And then Jack says, "Oh, you've been there? It's a pity. It got blown up." Now, I forget how he phrases it because, of course, time travel. But he says, "Oh, it got blown up." And the doctor replies, "Yeah, like I said, once." That was always a great Christopher Eccleston. Yeah, so it was mentioned all the way back then. And there was a gold mention then. And it's kind of hilarious that Moffat's first episode since, as Michael said, Twice Upon a Time, which apparently actually had Villain Guard in it. I don't remember much about the episode. I've only seen it once. But it is kind of funny that he brings back the mansion of Villain Guard. Actually, Villain Guard's very important in this plot. Brings back the Anglican Marines, which was something, again, he used all throughout his time as showrunner.
And I think they first popped up in A Goldman Goes to War.
I mean, honestly, I thought they first popped up in Time of the Angels and Flash and Stone. But maybe it didn't say that they were specifically Anglican Marines. They were certainly a religious branch of a military, but maybe it didn't say they were quite Anglican.
Yeah, I think it's so funny that Moffat brings back Villain Guard, like his first time back here in, I'm not counting the years, but like 7-8 years. He brings back something he mentioned in his very first story that he wrote. It's amusing to me. And it's probably a little reference that, well, like James said, it's not just a little reference, it's important for the story. But there may be some people watching, especially if they just jump down to Doctor Who maybe in the last couple of years. Maybe they wouldn't necessarily get that reference. And to be fair, it's like a small little joke type thing in the Doctor Dances. But I think, James, like I said, James caught it sort of immediately, and then we double checked it, and it was indeed right. So I think that's fun. He brought it back, and especially where they go with it in this episode.
Yeah, this episode really worked for me on a lot of levels. I quite liked most of it. There were some things I didn't like as much, but on the whole, for me, this was an easy 9 out of 10, and my favorite episode since Wild Blue Yonder. And in fact, I think I liked it more than Wild Blue Yonder. I liked Wild Blue Yonder a lot, but that might be an 8.5 and this might be a 9.
Yeah, and just to throw my 2 cents in, I actually think this is better than Wild Blue Yonder. Not that Wild Blue Yonder wasn't a good episode because it was pretty good. I just think this was a bit stronger, but I think it's certainly an interesting discussion to see which one is really better, because both are really good. Like some of them to me sort of feel like peak Who.
Yeah, Moffat was always good. Not so much at character writing, but at plots he was usually pretty well. On the whole, he was good. He had some issues. I suppose they can be said for a lot of writers. But no, one of the things I liked a lot was the episode was back to the Oxygen style of the Doctor instead of the Kablam style of the Doctor, where the Doctor's basically not quite sitting on capitalism throughout all of it, but capitalism specifically related to the weapons manufacturing, because the Villain Guard Corporation, which is what manufactured these bombs and whatnot, the landmines that the Doctor is standing on, happened to be funding what both sides of every conflict in the sector they were in for the last 2 centuries. I believe the Doctor phrased it that way.
Yeah, and also supplying other weapons for both sides. So, well, it's a good profit for them.
I mean, that's the thing. When you have corporations that literally make money out of selling weapons, yeah, what is good for them is to fund, if they can, both sides of military conflicts. I mean, forget finding both sides of military conflicts. There's sometimes we go to war just to use the weapons we have, specifically the United States where we live, but I'm sure other countries in the past have done that as well. Yeah, if our corporations could get away with that more often than they already do, they would love that.
Yeah, and I do have a couple of specific quotes about the capitalism critique, because like James said, it harkens back to Oxygen, which I think is one of the stronger episodes of season 10. And I hear it often make people's one of the better episodes lists, mainly because I think of the political messaging. But this a sort of funny conversation when Ruby's looking at the landmine and she notices it has lights on it. And Ruby's like, why does it have lights on it? And the Doctor's like, oh, capitalism. And keep in mind, the Doctor's standing on this landmine. Throughout this episode, he sort of goes through the emotional ring. He has a really difficult time here. So he doesn't hold anything back. I feel like he thinks he's not guaranteed to survive this, so he's like, screw it, I'll just tell the truth here. But Ruby's like, what? And the Doctor replies, oh, flashy lights play well in the showroom. Modern warfare, death by salesmen. Just to show the, well, I guess like James said, that side of the weapons manufacturing industry.
I mean, it was just a cool setting on the whole, this episode. Not only is the Doctor stuck on a landmine and can't really move about, this is on a seemingly war-torn battlefield in a very misty area. At one point, these robots come to clean the fog, and it's such a cool-looking scene when they clean the fog and we see more of the planet. I believe that's when Ruby realizes, oh wait, this really is an alien planet, because he sees the other moons and the other planets, right?
Yeah, because it clears away the fog and she can actually see the atmosphere. It looks really good. The scene does look quite beautiful.
Yeah, it does. The planets look really good, the moons and the like.
And I think it's then that the Doctor realizes what planet he's on too, because I think he can tell by the rings of the planet next to them where they are. And that helps sort of piece together the whole mystery of this little war that's going on too, which the Doctor, like I said, is going to be emotional ringer here, and he has to sort of try to figure out whilst we're about to lose his life on the landmine, so just adds to the tension.
Yeah, not only his life, because, I mean, we know the Doctor, he would usually be willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good, but also Ruby's life, because apparently this is her first alien planet, so, which has a number of issues, but
yeah, but we'll discuss it. Yeah, we'll discuss it a bit later on.
But another fun thing the episode had going for it was, of course, these were Anglican Marines, and the Doctor's always kind of a bit snippy towards them. Matt Smith in Flash and Stone just really loved poking at Father Octavian. At one point, he was mocking him, because if you remember, the planet they were on at the time had these pieces that had two hearts, which is actually kind of a plot point in a pretty cool scene. But the Doctor just, you know, Matt Smith's like, he just rambles for days. And he's just talking about how they used to even marry each other. Oh, the divorces were kind of messy. And then he says, oh, but that's before the church ruined all the fun. And then he talks us to Father Octavian. No offense. And then Father Octavian, he didn't really like the Doctor. No offense is taken, but continues on with this day. So, and of course, Father Octavian is played by the same actor who played Joel Moment in Game of Thrones. And so he's always been a good actor. But in this one, of course, his life is really on the line, and so is the life of his companion. So he really does have time for these people and their faith. I mean, one of the first things he wondered when he realized the planet they were on is, he was wondering who they were fighting. Why was there a war here in the first place? And it turns out, well, if you've seen the episode, they're not fighting anyone. And as the Doctor says, I mean, most armies would notice that they were fighting smoking shadows, but not this lot. You know why? Because they have faith. And the character who he was talking to, well, really monologuing to, because he was talking to Ruby, who was at that point dying, but he needs something to hold on to. Just how the Doctor just sat up, and she, of course, is she wasn't a bishop.
Yeah, I don't know what she was either. She had some title, but it's not coming to me.
In any case, yeah, she wasn't much a fan of what the Doctor said. And then the Doctor continues on, faith, the magic word that keeps you never having you think for yourself.
Which is one of the things, I guess, to put this in perspective, both James and I have been atheists for quite some time. And that seems like such a very quick, succinct way to, or pretty much slam faith. And sort of, to be honest, I couldn't believe Disney Plus allowed that to be in this. It struck me as such a strong condemnation. It's like a goddamn moment. It's just a strong line there. I actually had to, I think at the time we watched, I had to rewind it just to see it again. But it's such a strong line.
Yeah, they might have only gotten away with it because at the end the Doctor rescinds it and makes it slightly nicer. Because there, of course, are those who say, oh, there's a difference between faith and blind faith. And it all comes down to definition. I'm not sure that difference is actually there, but we perhaps just define words differently. But either way, it was, and granted, the Doctor's in a very tense moment, usually it's not quite that impolite and angry at the same time to just a person, maybe to some evil creature he's fighting, or some evil capitalist, as in Oxygen, but usually to a normal person, he isn't quite the house, but in this case, he was, and I thought it worked really well. As Michael said, the Doctor's gone through a lot of emotional things in this episode, and it was, I think it was a really great performance for him, honestly. I'm not going to say he didn't feel like the Doctor before, because in a lot of ways he did, on the whole, but it was really nice to see this after 3 episodes. I mean, he was kind of tense in the last one, the Davos Chord, because he was dealing with an entity that was so powerful. But nonetheless, this felt more tense, obviously. It felt like it was written in a way where the Doctor had more of a emotional range that he explored, and I thought it was done very well.
Yeah, and I also found it funny that once the Doctor says that almost a jaw-dropping line, I imagine some people watching, maybe in American audiences, were like, well, hey, that doesn't seem like a very nice thing to say. But after he says that, and that's after, like James said, how he's talking about how these Anglicans aren't really fighting anyone. The woman's like, well, prove it. And the first reply just sort of cracked me up, like, what? Seriously? Now you need proof, Faith Girl? Quality.
Yeah, like I said, he really wasn't having it with them at that point. I mean, obviously, like, the second they stop into the story, they kind of mess everything up. Because this episode is very good at Rotstein Hansen. The Doctor stops in the landmine. He's able to get some help from Ruby because he's able to put his foot down after he's given something to help even the weight out. And then, because what he has given are the remains of an Anglican Marine, this woman, who is also, again, her name's Mandy, she's also an Anglican Marine, tells the Doctor, knowing that he's on, one, a short time span before the bomb goes off, and two, that he's just on a landmine anyway, tells him that he needs to give it up because they are the remains of a Marine. And basically, yeah, you're going to die anyway, but those remains are more important, probably because they're Anglican. Then she literally shoots him, what, 2 times, 3 times?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I forget. Yeah, she shot him a couple times, and then she held one of the shots for a little. It's sort of like a laser type gun, shooting at the Doctor's arm that was holding the remains.
Yeah, because they matter so much more than this actual live person in front of her.
And I suspect, I need to double check the dialogue. It might have been something too that since the Doctor wasn't ordained, he should have even been allowed to touch it or something like that. So
yeah, there were a couple of things like that came up, like when the ambulances.
And ambulances has a different meaning here, but we're going to jump into that shortly.
I mean, if you saw the episode, you know what the ambulances are. But when they were trying to heal Ruby, was it something to the fact that, oh, she's not ordained, she can't be here, the ambulances won't work on her?
Yeah, it's like they would withhold care because she wasn't, I forget what word they used, but yeah, because she pretty much wasn't a believer in that specific faith, that care was withheld. So that's some quality stuff right there.
Which is also something churches would get away with if they could. But, nevertheless, and one of the things is, during the conversation where the Doctor explores about faith, is he wants Mandy to just give up because he realized, probably pretty early on, that, one, the Anglicans don't even know who they're fighting. They've never actually seen the people of the planet they're supposedly fighting. They just arrived and declared that they were here, and then just started basically dying. So they assumed they were fighting people. But they actually weren't fighting anybody. The only things that they were fighting was literally the Vellingard algorithm. Because, oh, what was that great line? And as capitalism says, as the Doctor does in this really great line, life is cheap, patients are expensive. We see a character who is blinded. He'll be fine in 2 weeks, but because that's 2 weeks that he would be on the battlefield fighting, he's not actually worth saving to the algorithm because it's not cost efficient. So the ambulance just kills him.
That's some quality medical care.
It's quality capitalism.
Yeah. Like I said, this whole episode that sort of goes after both capitalism and faith. And you might argue that maybe it's trying to fit a bit much in, but I thought it did it pretty well, generally speaking.
Yeah, no, plus it helps, and I agree with the messages they were saying. Like, I could see, I don't know why somebody would be a capitalist, but I could see some capitalist person saying, no, this doesn't really understand the weapons industry. We save lives. I can't even say it without laughing because it's absurd on the face of it to me. But, I mean, they literally have lobbyists. But anyway, I thought the whole conversation, because the Doctor, once he realized where he was, what landmine he was on, he knew what he was getting into. Because you could just see on his face, of course, the Vanguard algorithm. The hologram of the soldier who was blinded, who was then killed by the ambulance, it really, to me, sounds like it's corporate fine print. Because this doesn't sound like what the character would actually say. It sounds like something that it has to say because of the situation. But
yeah, and it's theoretically like an AI approximation of the individual who died. But yeah, this sounds more like the corporation speaking through him as opposed to his own thoughts on the matter.
Yeah, at least when it came to Ghosteen, which was in another Moffat episode, Forest of the Dead, science in a library. I think it's reversed that. But that had ghosting. And at the very least, as horrible as ghosting was, at least you could tell it was that person.
Yeah, it wasn't like filtered through a corporation.
Correct. But in this one, the guy says, I was spared for the suffering. Keep in mind, he wasn't even really suffering. He was just blinded. He would have been fine. I was spared for the suffering by a Villengard automated ambulance unit. My recovery was estimated as beyond acceptable parameters for a conflict as budgeted. And that's where the Doctor goes into the Villengard algorithm. That Villengard battle products are fitted with AI. The algorithm maintains a fighting force at just above the acceptable number of casualties. Keeps you fighting, keeps you dying, keeps you buying. Actually, now that I'm reading it out, this sounds like something I could really see Jodie Whittaker's Doctor saying. I can exactly hear she would have said it. And I think she would have said it really well too. Probably would have been this because Chibnall was so liberal. But the medical surfaces optimize the casualty rate for continued conflict. War is business and business is booming. Seriously, that whole conversation is just so great because it's such an indictment.
Yeah, and James made a joke at some point during the episode that he at moments he sort of sounded like Karl Marx. Like he's just going through he's going through so many emotions right now. He doesn't have time for this faith BS or this capitalism BS. He's just pissed off. Ruby, through events that we'll touch on, is sort of dying in front of him, but he can't move. If he moves, the whole planet, well, I guess half the planet blows up, but it's pretty much a whole planet. So he can't do anything about it. He's stuck there. So he's just like pissed off, and he's just like laying down facts. And he's just spitting truth, as I guess kids probably said 10 years ago. I don't know. But yeah, he just goes hard though, and it's really fun to see.
Yeah, like I said before, it's reminiscent of Oxygen, reminded me a bit of the Sandmakers, which is hilarious considering the writer of the Sandmakers was actually a conservative complaining about liberal governments, or probably he would have called socialist governments. In the UK, it might actually have been closer to that. But I suppose that's a story for that time. But the way it's written in the Sandmakers, I mean, the Doctor at the end even paraphrases Karl Marx at the end of the Sandmakers, which is absolutely hilarious. Tam Baker was great in that story. If you haven't seen the Sandmakers, watch the Sandmakers. It's really worth it. Leela's great, all of it's good. But this is not the Sandmakers. This is a slightly happier planet, which is really saying something. The Doctor's always been more on the side of the oppressed than he has, obviously, on the side of the oppressor. Generally speaking, Jodie Whittaker's Doctor excluded. And well, that doesn't mean, of course, that he probably has many economic views. It's kind of like what he was saying to Ruby in Space Babies, maybe one of the few good things about it, where he's saying, I don't have a job, I don't have money, I don't have to be anywhere, I can just go. Which would be great if you could do that. And we could do that in a certain type of society, but that society would be a capitalist one. Certain people could do that through the exploited labor of other people, but the actual working class aren't able to just go and just live and just create.
And yeah, I think it's also worth mentioning. I know we've mentioned this before, but much like how we are come to the whole faith thing through atheist perspectives, we are both also socialists. So that's particularly why both Oxygen and this one sort of really spoke for us. And I think it's great to see a critique of capitalism. This succinct. It's pretty, to me, it's pretty simple. It just lays it out and shows you how it's wrong, and hopefully most people would agree. But I thought it was great to see that used as it was in this story.
The only thing I see is that I'm sure people will be like, oh, this is horrible, and then they'll go support capitalism. Because it's just a TV show, and it's, well, they can see something's true in a show. It's a lot harder for some people to actually make the connection to real life.
Well, and then you get into the whole argument of harm reduction, which is an argument that some people have on the left. I mean, there's obviously a lot that goes into this type of thing, and it's probably more for a show like this to necessarily tackle, probably more than it needs to tackle. But yeah, if you ever want some classic infighting, come join us on the left. We do a lot of it.
It's just really nice to see, especially populist shows, well, it's populist Doctor Who is anymore, but come out with messages like that. And obviously, shows like Doctor Who, and it's true in comic books as well, very long-running things have tons of different writers. So there are going to be tons of different perspectives given to a character that may be contradictory. Again, this is the same Doctor, the same person, not the same Doctor, but the same person throughout, who apparently was a huge fan of the Kablam Corporation, a massive fan for the Kablam Corporation.
Yeah, she gave the famous quote that it's not the system that's the problem, it's the people misusing the system.
Yeah, and
which to this day has people pissed off, which understandable. I mean, yeah,
it's fun to see people talk about Kablam, and then you see that's where you can separate the laborers and the socialists. If you see this casting on Kablam.
Yeah, and on a side note, if you don't know the difference between a liberal and a socialist, you might be a liberal, or you might be a conservative who think both are the same. But there is a real difference there. But it's probably at the time forward.
No, but I honestly, like the episode, it discusses on capitalism in relation to the weapons industry, and it discusses the problem with things like blind faith. It's not as indicting as that as is the weapons industry. But again, the Doctor gets really annoyed about that. And reasonably so, because he just said Ruby sat in front of him. It was an extremely tense set of situations that popped up.
Yeah, that's something I actually wanted to touch on too. Because, like James said, the last couple of episodes have been a bit of a struggle. Like, the Church and Ruby Road was okay. I don't think it was great, but it was okay. Space Babies, we both thought it was pretty terrible. The Davos Code, I thought was bad. Well, certainly better than Space Babies. How could it be worse? How could we lose? But I certainly think it was bad, but I still don't think it was great.
Or to be fair, I think I liked the one slightly more than you did. But I don't think it was great. I don't think it was great either. But I do think I liked it more.
You might like it more. I think we both agree it's probably below average, though, if I recall.
Yes, but for me, it's pretty close.
Yeah, and this one, I tried not to have any expectations coming in. I was hoping it would be like, based on what little bit I knew about it, I was hoping it would be like a strong, serious, like we had a couple of lighthearted episodes. Like the Davos Code, I theoretically tense because they're going up against like a thing with godlike powers, reality binding powers in the Maestro. But given the Maestro is so campy, it didn't really feel particularly serious to me. But here, like James said, it's a very tense episode. It's pretty dark. This planet's pretty gloomy overall.
To be fair, what's happening at night?
Well, yeah, but even so, it doesn't seem like a particularly joyful place because of the Anglicans. Even from the opening, and we had like I think it was a 5.5, 6 minute opening with some soldiers, one of them being this blind soldier James talked about earlier, just making their way back to an encampment through, not necessarily a minefield, but just through this war zone. It's misty. There's this ambulance that's going to pretty much kill one of them if it finds him just because he's too damaged. And from the very beginning, it's very tense. It has a lot of atmosphere to it, and it keeps it at tension throughout. There's some really, really tense moments that pop up throughout this episode. Some of them are really good. There's a scene in which Ruby has to restrain a young girl from hugging what she thinks is her father. It's like a hologram of her father. And so Ruby has to restrain the girl from getting close to it because then it might start off this mine the Doctor's standing on. Of course, the Doctor wants to do it, but he has to stand there. You can even see he's crying. Again, strong emotional performance. And naturally, the scene where Ruby gets shot, that was a great sequence right there, too.
Yeah, and the worst thing about it is, so the Doctor has the ambulance attached to him. He needs to get the ambulance off because if his trust goes beyond a certain limit, the bomb just goes off then and there. The landmine. So he needs to get the ambulance off him. Ruby remembers that, oh, hey, the ambulance is attracted to battle. So she goes and grabs the gun from Mandy, shoots it in the air. Not much really happens. And then Mandy goes, no, it needs to actually sense an injury, not just gunfire, to leave the Doctor and actually come to you. So she tells, she was really a dick for the first 5 minutes. But after she realized, oh, wait, the Doctor might actually blow up half the planet, she started to ease off a bit. So she tells, and actually kind of a funny scene, she tells Ruby to shoot her left arm, not her right. And right as Ruby's about to shoot it, just to give a small entry, she set the laser setting on low, so it wouldn't even really hurt her. A friend who she had talked to a few minutes ago comes in sees that Ruby's holding a gun to her and shoots Ruby down.
Yeah, and you can buy his gun was not set to the lowest level.
And just the Doctor's reaction when he thinks that Ruby, he makes this like grunty noise.
I think he almost whites out too. Like he almost loses consciousness. Like he's just so. Yeah, that's a great sequence. Like the sound sort of blacks out for a little, and again, Doctor can't move, so he can't run to the body. He can't do anything. So it's that really is that's some good stuff.
And what's also good stuff is we, for the third time in a row, get some snow related to Ruby.
Yeah, and actually that's a good point. So Ruby, I have seen some people say that Ruby's not really doing much in this episode. She is like unconscious for maybe a third of the episode, which, given this is her first time on an alien planet, which James said earlier, it's sort of disappointing. But yeah, as Ruby is sort of dying after she gets shot, and this ambulance is talking to her after it withholds care, it's like saying, if you give us a message, we'll notify our next of kin. And she's like crying, she's in pain. It's like, who's my next of kin? I don't know who it is. And I think that even though she may not do that much this episode, let me rephrase, she may not do as much as other characters do. I thought that was a pretty strong emotional little piece from her too. And as she's sort of losing consciousness, that snow that we've also seen in both Space Babies, and I forget, it popped up, did it pop up in Davos Code?
Yeah, when the maestro is trying to get the sound of Ruby.
Yeah, like there was some sound, like sound in a soul or something like that.
It was the thing the church choir was singing.
Yeah. So it's been this ongoing mystery, like, it's Ruby Iceman. It's not really the mystery, but there's a lot of snow with Ruby that she can, I guess, manifest memories. I'm not sure what it is. We'll find out at some point. But yeah, there's some snow here, and then the snow sort of stopped. It wasn't falling. It just sort of stored its tail as Ruby is fully losing consciousness. This was a nice scene. And also, what I think was nice is that this episode is really the first episode that had some conflict between the Doctor and Ruby, which has been lacking. A lot of people, including me, like Ruby hasn't really sorted out that well to me as a companion. It feels like the Doctor's best friend and nothing really much more than that. And Dana felt like David Tennant's friend too, but Dana was not afraid to argue with the Doctor. It's too salty.
I mean, Harvey Wilding.
Yeah, we haven't really seen that type of dynamic in the Ncuti Gatwa, Millie Gibson, Doctor companion relationship, but we do see some conflict here, especially that scene where she's supposed to toss over the remains so the Doctor can balance himself properly. The Doctor wants her to toss it. She just walks closer to the mine, risking her own life, and hands it to him. And it's some legitimate conflict. Now, it doesn't necessarily go anywhere because a bunch of other things happen in really quick succession. But it's nice to see that little bit of tension between the two of them also. I think it's a line like, hey, if I live, I'm going to be really cross with you. And I think it's fun to see that type of thing finally between these two characters.
Yeah, no, I agree. What they really needed was some tension between them, because that always helps, and that's what we really barely got with the 13th Doctor. I would say 90% of the time, the companions for the 13th Doctor just tended to agree with her.
I just think back to the woman who fell to Earth, how they were just standing in the background, not really doing anything. The Doctor's rambling about something.
Not only not doing anything, but they were literally told they were going to die.
Yeah, when they had they like little time bombs in their arm, and I think the Doctor even destroys Ryan's phone. And hey, that's my phone.
To be fair, I thought that line was kind of funny. Oh no, I'm a suffers on that. Not anymore.
Yeah, that was funny, and I found it so funny that Ryan was more emotional about the phone than he was about the alien planet.
Alien planet, man.
Which again, like James said earlier, this is the first time Ruby's been on an alien planet, and she's been traveling with the Doctor for 6 or 8 months now, theoretically.
Yeah, see, the thing is, I've seen people discussing this, and they're saying, well, actually, the Davos Code was supposed to be episode 6 of the series, so it would have made sense at that point. But even if that's true, it was episode 2. It's not episode 6 anymore. It's episode 2. And that line is still there. So I don't care if it's supposed to be 4 episodes later.
Yeah, no matter what the production called us, or when these episodes were made, how they were supposed to be aired. If they air it this way, this is the way it's. Unless there's some type of thing where like it says that this episode takes place before the Davos Code, which I guess technically I don't think this episode made any reference specifically to the Davos Code.
Yeah, that's something I'm actually going to be watching for in the future, because they could always play it. I don't see any gain to doing this, by the way. I'm just saying they could. I don't know what will be gained. They could play it as at the end of one of the episodes in the next 4 or so. The Doctor says, "Now, Ruby, where do you really want to go?" No, actually, I actually just did think of something they could gain from it. That the Doctor has that experience that we saw earlier on in the Davos Code, and then it leads into the 2-parter that is actually related to the Pantheon. I could almost see that. That would be kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, now I'm just trying to think back to the Davos Code to see if there's anything in that would indicate for certainty that boom had it happened. But that might require another watch of the Davos Code, and I'm not sure I'm willing to do that.
I'll be willing to do it. Not right now, but I think I'll probably certainly rewatch it just for fun before the season finale, the 2-parter.
Yeah, but all of this is to say that, at least right now, it seems like Ruby's been traveling with the Doctor for like 6-7 months, and this is her first visit to an alien planet, which might sound ridiculous, but we double-checked, and it was Rose. The first time she was out on an alien planet was technically New Earth.
Yeah, I think it was season 2, New Earth, which the episode is not actually all that good. Like, season 2 had quality issues. There were some really good things in it, but my God, there were some not good things. And by the way, I am not talking about Love and Monsters. I think that one gets way too much stuff thrown at it. And I say again because I've mentioned that in previous Brothers Mahoney things, I think. Point is that it gets way too much stuff thrown at it. But New Earth really wasn't that great. But yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that would be the first time Rose is on an alien planet. Because for all of season 1, they were on modern day Earth, Earth in the future, Earth in the past, Earth in the present, which is a year later for Rose. Earth,
a space station revolving around Earth.
A space station that's literally just a satellite around Earth. And then they go to the same space station later. Then they go to modern day Cardiff. Then they go to 1940s London. He didn't even leave the country.
You can tell that they have quite the budget they do now watching the first season of the Doctor Who revival.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I saw this we did, of course, have the show during the time, but I saw this out throughout the Whittaker era, that, hey, things look pretty nice. I just wish the stories weren't shit. Now, of course, with the Disney money, things do look really nice. And I do believe that Russell T Davies has a plan with other things he's doing, which didn't really come up in this episode. Of course, this was written by Moffat, not Davies. There's such a tonal whiplash. Yeah, maybe they should have thrown something, but
I mean, I guess they brought up the whole snow thing to sort of play in or add to the memory thing going on. But yeah, this really felt quite standalone from previous episodes. Though we should mention we did see Susan Twist again as the face of the ambulance with the what was it? Thoughts and Prayers.
That was absolutely hilarious. Of course, Thoughts and Prayers is the annoying shit phrase every politician says after a mass shooting. Well, really after any event. I don't know if they said it for the death of the Iranian president, but they'll just say, "Oh, it's tragic. I'm so sorry these people died. Thoughts and prayers to the family." They won't actually do anything. They won't fix it. They won't they won't look at anything, but they'll just say thoughts and prayers, and that's good enough. Needless to say, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed with that type of retort, because that's vacuous. There's nothing there.
Yeah, it's not only that, it's insulting. Like after a school shooting where a bunch of kindergartners get shot, instead of going with gun reform, you just go on Facebook, "Oh, thoughts and prayers." Like, shut the fuck up. Like, yeah, it's stuff like that that just really bothers me. Because like James said, you're not fixing anything. I guess if you think prayers, okay, I guess prayer doesn't make any sense to me anyway, but now it's not really the time for it. So I guess if you think praying's doing something, maybe you're thinking and praying. I don't know why you're combining thinking and praying. Like the doctor said, faith is what you do when you don't think. But yeah, that type, it just means it's a nothing burger, which That's the phrase I sort of don't care for. But it just doesn't mean anything. It's just like empty. So yeah, they brought it up here, and again, the Doctor sort of snide about it.
So Susan Trish was the face for the main ambulance for the Villengard algorithm, basically. And the Doctor and Ruby have encountered her before. Now that I think about it, Ruby didn't actually encounter her during the Davos Code, I don't think. That was mostly just the Doctor talking to her, but I think she might have been standing next to him at one point. But none of the encounters they've had with the character Susan Trish plays have been all that important or time-consuming. But this one was a good, I would say, in universe 40 minutes of their time, where the Doctor's having a hell of a day. So honestly, like, I think they'll recognize the face next time it comes up. Maybe not immediately, but they might pull a what Russell Davis thing of, hey, you look familiar. Oh, well, I'll get to it later. Because something else is happening at the time. But, I really did like the AI for the ambulance. I thought it worked out really well. I thought it was cool how it was done.
Yeah, I thought it's sort of a funny way, too, to make sure, with such a small cast in this one, to make sure Susan Trish still had a place in it. Just make her the face of the AI of a villain god. I thought it was so funny.
Nah, I thought, I know she's an AI, but she did pretty good with the role.
And just a few more things to touch on. There was sort of a subplot here involving two of these Anglican Marines. I actually don't have the names in front of me, but like one of them is Mondi, the other one, who knows what his name was. Where there was a little bit of tension between them. He liked her, but she's sort of oblivious to it. And I know that some people didn't think it had a place here. I sort of liked it. To me, it felt like they were real characters with some real emotions. And not only that, I thought there were some decently emotional scenes between them toward the end of the episode. So I thought that was nice to see. It didn't need to be there, but I had no problem that it was. I thought it gave a little more emotional depth for more of the characters involved. And again, I mean, it felt like a better laugh story than... What was that? Revolution? The Dalek one?
That one was hideous.
That was...
Resolution.
Yeah, that was just awful. Like, this one was at least so fun, like in a... I would just say romantic comedy way, but it was fun.
Wait a second. No, there was at least two really bad ones. The one in Resolution wasn't the worst thing. The worst thing was... What Revolution of the... Not Revolution of the Daleks. See, all of them really fucking blend in. Because all three of his New Year's Days passes were Dalek ones. The one with the... What was that one called? I'm looking up right now because I really don't remember.
It's worth mentioning. I'm pretty sure we've only seen those specific episodes once, I think. Unless we probably saw that maybe the Dalek Containment one twice, maybe, but God knows we didn't want to. It wasn't an option.
Yeah, so the very first Dalek one was Resolution. The second Dalek one was Revolution of the Daleks, which that one had no romance subplot. Resolution did. The third one was Eve of the Daleks. God, that was... Like, parts of that weren't bad.
Yeah,
parts of that I actually liked. But the romance part... God, that... One, I hated the actress, but we're talking about... that. Jesus, that one bothered me in some aspects. Actually, in a lot of aspects, but... Please, I want to happier things. Oh my God, and after that was Legend of the Sea Devils. Please, I want to happier things.
Yeah, so... I like the addition here of those two characters. I thought it was fun. Just threw a little more in here, and it's worth mentioning also. And I thought this was also funny. Though I guess funny might be strong, more amusing. But the Doctor's been singing quite a bit recently. Naturally, there was the whole musical at the end of the Davos Code. Naturally, there's the Avocacci Goblin King song in Church on Ruby Road, and maybe this all stems back from the Celestial Toymaker's enjoyment of the Spice Girls. Oh wait, was it Spice Girls?
Yeah, I think it was Spice Girls. Maybe even stems back to the Doctor watching the Master dance to the Rasputin song.
Oh yeah, the Rah Rah Rasputin. One of the few amusing scenes in Power of the Doctor. God, I try not to think about that one either, but yeah, we'll talk about that later. But my point being, despite the very dark and atmospheric and tense tone of this story, the Doctor also finds some time to sing here. No, it's more dramatic. He's trying to keep his zen while he is, again, on a landmine, can't do anything. So he's trying to find calmness and he sings a song with Ruby I guess they're both singing, but when they're trying to pass over it's essentially like a glass coffin type thing. Not the best tone, but that other tones are coming to me. I found it amusing that they found another way to throw in a singing Ncuti Gatwa. So yeah, that's so fun to me.
To be fair, I know why they do it. He has a pretty good singing voice. I'm fine with it on the whole, as long as it's things like this that I quite liked. Something about the moon and a presence out there, which we could talk about, but at the time I didn't recognize it. It's some reference to, what were the two stories again?
Yeah, it's sort of a reference to both Magician's Apprentice, which was the season opener of, I think it would have been season 9, and also Howlband, which was the second part of the Haven Sand Howlband story at the end of season, actually at the end of season 9, actually.
Yeah, and of course those are both Moffat ones. You might as well reference his entire time with Doctor Who with this one. I'm surprised we didn't see the Atraxi come back.
Yeah, but we did see the fish fingers and custard, though.
Oh yeah, I forgot all about that one, yeah. Everybody remembers that was Peter Capaldi's favourite treat.
Yes. Matt Smith did like that guitar and them sunglasses, though.
I hated the Sonic sunglasses.
And you know that Christopher Eccleston can't get enough of phases. But this episode I thought was a very strong episode. To reiterate, I think the emotional content that Gatwa had to work with, he did really well with. I thought Ruby was strong here when she had a more prominent role. The tension here it was a legitimately tense episode.
Yeah, and you pass it more than once because of how tense it was getting, which we very rarely have to do, but this kept up a very tense nature throughout almost the entire episode, which is impressive because at the end of the day, we know the Doctor's not going to die, and we know that Ruby's not going to die, and yet it was still goddamn tense. So that's just good writing. Again, like I said earlier in this discussion, I would give this a 9 out of 10. This was just really good. It's been one of my favorite episodes of Doctor Who since pre-Chibnall as showrunner. I didn't really like Treasure Upon a Time. I know some people really swear upon the first part of the Doctor Files. Was part 1? Ascension of the Cybermen?
World Enough in Time.
Oh yeah, Ascension of the Cybermen, something different. Oh Jesus, no, that was I think that was in Chip.
Yeah, I was going to say the Camus Children one. Are you sure you're talking about the one, bro?
Yeah, no, that one was bad. But no, so I've actually, I think, only seen that one once. I've seen parts of it, Trash. The part where she gets shot by the Cybermen's always very shocking in the way that was filmed. Yeah, no, I really didn't like a lot of Capaldi's writing. Like, some of it was good, but on the whole, I thought the episodes during his time were generally written pretty weakly, which is a shame because some people he's their favorite actor, bar none. I've seen a lot of Capaldi laugh, which is fine. Capaldi's a great actor, but I don't know, just with the scripts he was given, I could never pit him as high up as some people do. Yeah, no, I thought this episode was just really, really good for me. I think when the revival finally ends and outward ends, and I would hope it's no time soon, we got through the 13th Doctor, we can get through anything, I would think. But when it ends, I think this will be one of the classics from the Reviver series. As late as it is, I think it'll be one of the classics from the Reviver series.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be seen as like I said, even as a standalone episode outside of the main arc of this season. I think it's strong. Since it's not written by Russell T Davies, but Moffat, I think that gave it a bit more independence than some of the previous episodes had. But this next episode, we got like maybe 15, 25-second little preview of the upcoming episode, which is a 73 yards. You can't really make out that much of what's going on. I can't tell if it's going for like a horror vibe type thing or a mystery maybe. It's sort of hard to say. All I know is it personally looks fascinating. So I just want to say that I'm sort of happy we got through the little speed bump of the not too stellar beginning of the season. Maybe we're going into some better stuff. So I'm happy about that.
And I have in front of me, this next episode is in fact going to be written by Russell T Davies again. He's writing, I think, 6 out of 8 episodes, which actually isn't uncommon for a showrunner. Like, it sounds absurd. It sounds like it's a whole lot of work to be script writing like that. But yeah, so he's going to be writing this next one. I really got a horror vibe from it. My suspicion is going to be similar to, I don't know, I don't think I've seen any of the horror movies, but I'm something like, there's a woman who somebody can see who nobody else can see. Maybe like Mommy and the Orient Express, perhaps. I'm not sure. But they're going to be, 73 yards away from her at all times or something. I'm not sure. And then they're going to something what Mad Jack is unhinged.
Yeah. All of the homeless people at the pub were talking about.
I know. Where were they? Not Glasgow.
I don't remember, but yeah, it looked like a tiny Scottish village on the coast or something like that. It looked nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the Doctor appears to be. So we don't see him past a single scene in the small preview, but he is wearing something orange and hideous and just great. So that'll be fine.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning, this is just one of the things that some people are talking about. Some people are saying that this might be a Doctor Light episode, which if it is, it'll be the first Doctor Light episode in a little while. I don't have any guess as to when the last one was. But it has been a bit, whenever the last one was, it has been a bit since we've seen one. So if it does indeed turn out to be a Doctor Light episode, that should also be an interesting experience. Plus, it would give more time to sort of flash out Ruby as an independent character.
Yeah, which I think she sorely needs. Even I did enjoy her a lot in this episode. I think Moffat shaved off a lot of how he would have written a character like Amy or Clara. But when it comes to these types of companions, on the surface, they sometimes do all seem the same. But nevertheless, I think the last Doctor Light episode would have had to have at least been pre-Chibnall. Maybe you could argue Flatline would have been the last Doctor Light episode. But I would even call that quite Doctor Light, because it totally does have the same feel as Torn Loft or Love and Monsters. Actually, a Doctor Light episode would have done really well for the Chibnall era since they had 3 companions. We could have actually seen them grow and do something independent. I think it would have been really well done. Wow, it would have been. But the idea is there. Yeah, I think 73 yards does look quite interesting, and I'm looking quite forward to it, especially after Boom. I know it's Russell Davis. I hope it doesn't go diving back into the camp feel of the first 2 episodes. I hope it keeps some of the feeling that Boom had. It can't keep all of it, of course. But I wanted to feel like a serious adventure. Like Michael said, I know the Darvish Court was serious, but it feel serious because of the way the antagonist was written. So I'm just hoping it feels serious. Fingers crossed.
But yeah, I think that all of this is to say Boom was a fantastic time. Highly recommend it. If perhaps you watched Space Babies and you just were feeling it, highly recommend you at least watch to Boom.
Could you imagine if the season only gets better and better? There's no way in hell it does. I could imagine. But could you imagine if, yes, Space Babies, I'll give it a 2. People are more generous than I am. Some people liked it. But, so, Space Babies, I would say really bad. Darvish Court, below average. Boom, excellent. Could you imagine just going up from here? Could you imagine maintaining that for 5 more episodes?
Yeah, since I would probably give this a 9.5, I'd say it's not impossible, but extraordinarily improbable. So I don't think it would actually work that way. But if they keep pace similar to this one, and like I said, this next one does look like it could be quite a decent episode, at least certainly interesting, something more unique. I have good hopes. And we had this discussion a long time ago, going into this new Russell T Davies era, how we had such high hopes for it because of the disappointment there was at Chibnall area. And it wasn't always clear through this process that we were getting like the high quality Russell. I know Wild Blue Yonder was good. It didn't always feel like we were going back to the golden age. Ironically, this was Russell T Davies, this was Steven Moffat. But point being, if we are moving in a strong direction, that's something to only be grateful for.
I mean, to be fair, I did love all the specials, but to me, they were all better than any of the Chibnall stories. Even like the Star Beast, which I did think was that good. Like, it was, I would say, average. But, and also, fun fact, so Steven Moffat will not have another writing credit for the rest of this season, but he will be writing the Christmas special this year. So the season's going to end actually in just a month now, in June 22nd. Jesus. For us, probably June 21st. So the season's going to end in a month, and then next Doctor Who will be, well, they might actually do one of those small mini-swords that they do. Those always seem to pop out of nowhere. But next one's going to be Joy to the World, the Christmas Special, and that one's actually going to be written by Steven Moffat. So that'll be interesting.
I forget when that news dropped, but maybe they were so impressed with Boom, they just gave it to him on the spot. Like, hey, here you go, Steven, well done.
That would be kind of amusing. I don't see that happening, but I like the thought.
Yeah, but after this long discussion, let us know what you thought about Boom. Certainly, if you had some more critiques than we did, be curious to hear them. Because I know it didn't land with everyone, but we both really enjoyed it. You can always reach out to us either down below or over on Twitter, which I think has officially changed its name to X. But I think calling it Twitter still makes more sense.
And also, fuck Elon Musk.
You can always reach out to us over there. But as always, this has been the Brothers Mahoney. I'm Michael.
And I'm James.
Thanks for listening and have yourself a pleasant night.